Hey everybody, this is Chad Criswell from musicedmagic.com coming to you with the second Music Ed Monthly podcast. This month I've got a good friend of mine. We haven't spoken with each other in several years, at least not personally on Skype or anything until today, but met Andy Zweibel about 5 years ago or so, I think. Hi Andy, how you doing?
I'm all right, Chad. How are you?
I'm doing good. Andy is now the high school band director at South Dade Senior High School in Homestead, Florida. I think when we met each other, if I remember right, I think we were at the then MENC conference, the National Music Education Conference out in D.C.
hmm
And were you still in college or were you out at that point?
Yeah, that was, I think, maybe my second. It was the summer before my third year of college. I was in school down at the University of Miami and was really interested in kind of getting more involved in the field. And so I came up, I think back then they were calling it Music Ed Week.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, Music
and
Education Week, Europe.
and so I came up to check that out. And our paths had crossed digitally a couple times, but that was our first opportunity to actually meet in person.
Yeah. All right. Well, today though, it's 5, 6 years later here, and you are teaching high school band. How's that going for you?
It's going really well, man. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I'm down at South Dade High School in Miami-Dade County, which is back where I finished my undergraduate degree at the University of Miami. So stuck around down here, and in year five, the program's starting to really go the direction I was hoping it's going to be in. And aside from the typical high school band director stressors, and we're in the throes of marching band season and competitions and all of that. It's been going really well. I'm very happy.
Yeah, it is a teaching high school band is a different beast, isn't it? It's that I used to teach high school band and it fried me, and I think if I was still teaching it today, I don't know that I might not be married anymore because I was never home. So
Right.
I feel for you, man, but it's also a big rush. I admit it's great when things go well for you. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there have been some. We actually had a great moment at our homecoming game was real early this year. It was this past weekend, and I do organize an alumni band where the kids who have previously graduated can come back and play with us in the stands. And I mean, we all know how band couples work, and so I have a couple of kids who had dated while they were in school who were still together. And so the guy was a drummer, and he was dating a color guard member, of course, because isn't that the way it's supposed to work? Um,
Mhm.
and when we finished the game and we played the alma mater at the end of the game, asked if he could say a couple words, and ended up proposing to his girlfriend in front of the band, and kind of was explaining how this is where we met, this is where it all began, and so this is where it should continue to take that next step. And so that was a real sweet moment, one of those reminders why we do what we do.
Okay, these were graduated kids or
Yes,
kids?
yes, yes, yeah, yeah. They
Okay,
graduated
okay,
about 3, 4. They were one of my first. They were one of my first graduating classes.
okay,
And
gotcha.
they had joined. The relationship started once they joined band together, and they've stayed together since they graduated. And now here we are, 3 or 4 years later. They're in their early 20s and staying together. And so they decided to take that step. And he explained to the current band, many of whom didn't know him, of course. This is who I am. This is what I did. This is how we met. This is where our relationship began. And so
Yeah,
I felt like this was the right place to do this.
that's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Um, Andy and I have been sitting around here for about the last half hour, kind of talking through stuff, getting some things figured out, and we're going to jump right into the news to get started with.
hmm
Actually, first, I forgot to really, I showed it, but we didn't really talk about it. Andy, tell us a little bit about, I mean, this is your website. It's andysweibel.com, right?
hmm
I can see it, it's spelled there. He's got a few things up on there. He's apparently having some problems with his hosting provider, but he's back up and running for now. So go over there and check him out if you'd like to. And let me see if I can get this going, and we will go over to the news, the big
hmm
news of the month. Um, I heard about this, and at first I thought this was just a whole bunch of hokum. it sounded kind of silly to me at first, but
Hmm.
apparently it was a pretty big deal. Apparently they even suspended the director over this. What have you heard about it?
Well, I think at first thing I heard about it was over Facebook. I read somebody saying something about this, and it was the day of the game, the day it originally happened. And I just kind of rolled my eyes and let it kind of move on, and it ended up obviously becoming something quite big. So it's been really interesting to see how one thing after another has led this down downhill.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull your head down here a little bit, Andy. I've cut your head off, and I don't like it. I'm gonna fix your head. There we go. Now we can see his head almost. There we go. All right. So basically, what it is, if you look at the drill, the director actually put the drill up online to prove to everybody that he was not trying to do what everybody said it looked like. I mean, you can see here, it looks like the Starship Enterprise on his drill chart.
It does.
Not what I mean, it kind of looks like it there. I'm
Yeah.
not going to play the video just because I don't want to go there, but yeah, it almost makes me wonder if the guys that were down here at this end, if they plotted it, because it
Right.
honestly does look like something else. So
It's too different to not to be just a mistake. That isn't just somebody missed their dot.
yeah, yeah. Well, they got their director in pretty deep trouble for it. He got suspended at least for a game or two, I think, from what I
Hmm.
heard. So that was kind of the big news of the week. But we've also heard about or you heard about this. I hadn't. Another high school band. Well, that one was a college band. This is a high school band in Brandon, Mississippi, that apparently got in trouble, or they got banned for doing something. What's the story on this one?
Yeah. So my understanding of the story is the Brandon High School band has they're doing their marching band show and they're getting ready to play halftime at their first football game of the year. I think it was late August, early September. Um, they Their show is just a normal design show. They bought it from somebody online, just as many of us high school folks do. And the ballad is a an arrangement of the hymn "How Great Thou Art." And so somehow this word of the fact that this was their ballad got to whoever it shouldn't have gotten to on the administrative side of things, and a word went up and it became a big issue where the school board got involved in the idea of this being sacred music being performed. The show had no design elements that implied anything religious. It was just the composer of the music felt like that music fit well with the design of the show, and so he put it in. And it ended up being the band had to change their show. They couldn't perform halftime at the first game. Fortunately, the composer worked with them on essentially rewriting the ballad and anything else that's in it so that they don't have to completely learn a brand new show, because this all came down after they had put it all on the field during camp. And
And that's kind of the silly thing, because we've heard these kind of things happen before in schools all across the country, where the band director or the band gets in trouble for programming some religious music of whatever kind. And
mhm.
time and time again, as far as I've ever heard, it's been upheld even in court that as long as it's not being used in a religious context, if it's just being used because of the musical value of it, then it's okay.
Right.
I don't know. It's
Well, and
people
and and
jump into conclusions, I guess.
yeah, and if I had been in the band director's shoes, I would have done similar to what he did, which is just say, okay, I you're right, it probably would have been upheld if you'd taken it, but there are some things that are worth fighting, and there are other things that, especially when you're in the middle of a marching, I mean, I'm there right now, and if somebody from the school board told me that I had to change my show and gave me a reason like that, I would, I wouldn't like it, and I'd want the media involved in it, but I'm not wanting a court battle over a marching band
Yeah.
show. And we'll change it and have a discussion about the bigger problem later. But you don't.
Choose your battles, right?
Right, and that if you fight that, then it starts coming at the expense of the kids. and that's harming their experience in band that year. This has already been obviously a trying experience for them, and so you want to create a good opportunity and a good experience for the kids. And so I would probably would have chosen my battle like this director did.
Yeah. Well, the next thing on our news list here has to do with Happy Birthday. Now,
Yes.
most people that are in music have probably heard of this by now. We know that the whole copyright system is a gigantic, tangled mess of rulings. I don't know. But Happy Birthday has kind of been one of these sacred things, kind of like the whole Mickey Mouse kind of deal. Everybody complains about that too. But Happy Birthday for decades here has been a copyrighted song that the publisher and the copyright holder has charged lots of money in order to be able to perform it in any kind of a public place. Now, you can sing it at home for private purposes, and that's not a problem. But if you do it in a commercial context, like if you did it in a movie or on a video on YouTube, or even if you're sitting in the restaurant and the restaurant people come out in the Mexican hats and sing the regular Happy Birthday song, they can get fined for it and they have to pay royalties, which is why when you go to a restaurant, nobody sings the regular Happy Birthday song.
Right.
Now, finally, it sounds like that has come to an end. Sounds like here's the actual final ruling. Well, basically, I've done a lot of reading on this, and it basically sounds like the music is obviously public domain because it's actually based on a previous version of another one called Good Morning to You.
Right.
And then, but they have claimed that the Happy Birthday lyrics, they owned them. And because they were published after, I think it's 1935, I'd have to look through this to find the exact date. But so they claimed that they had the right to claim the copyright and get paid, and they were making millions of dollars every year on people wanting to use the real Happy Birthday song in their videos. Well, the judge came down and ruled the other day. They've actually found a printed songbook with the date of 1927, I believe, something like that. That has the actual Happy Birthday lyrics in it, and based on that, their copyright claim is bogus.
Right.
In light of the foregoing, the defendant's motion is denied. The plaintiff's motion is granted and set forth above. They never acquired the rights to the Happy Birthday lyrics, so they don't own a valid copyright to it. And one publication that I saw about this in one news article said that they're actually possibly going to be having to return the money of some of these copyright holders over the last few years.
Right, because they've been illegally collecting it.
Yeah. So that's a big loss to suddenly lose a song like that from your library. $2 million a year. I'm sure they'll make it up someplace, but still.
Sure.
All right.
On the upside, I'll be looking forward to being sung the real Happy Birthday the next time I go out to a restaurant.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll make sure my waiter knows that it's no longer copyright protected.
Yep. Now, this one really isn't a news story. This is a new product that's coming out. I haven't seen it. Nobody's seen it. It's like just being released tomorrow, technically. Okay, yes, we're talking about it one day early, but the video isn't going to be released until tomorrow, so I'm still legal.
There you go.
So, it's debuting on the 28th of September. It's a little product called Novo. And I find it kind of fascinating because I've had these kind of problems before with my smartphone where I'm listening on earbuds, and either the noise level of the room suddenly gets louder, or vice versa. I'm in a quiet room and I'm listening to the earbuds and I'm listening and I'm totally focused in on it, and somebody comes up and starts talking to me and I don't hear them.
Right.
Little product here. It looks like that. There's two settings on it. You can kind of whoops, see what just happened. Okay. Okay. Well, you saw it there for half of a second, right?
Right. Yep.
Let me see if I can get it back up. I don't know. Okay, I even lost the link. Let's go back a page and see if it'll pull it back up. There it goes. Okay, it's coming. If you flip the switch one way, apparently it sets it so that if you're in a loud noisy room, it will automatically boost your uh, okay, so it listens to your surroundings, it normalizes your audio for a consistent sound level, and it boosts or reduces the volume based on your environment. That's basically what I was trying to say, but boy, that said it a whole lot nicer.
Right.
In boost mode, it pushes the volume up so that you can hear it if suddenly it gets noisy around where you're at. But when you're in reducing mode, which is kind of nice for me at least, if I'm in a quiet environment but I'm listening to loud music or I'm listening to something that's really engrossing my attention, but then my wife walks up behind me and starts talking, or somebody's trying to say something and I don't notice them, it automatically lowers the volume level. I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
So it actually listens, it has some type of a microphone that listens to the volume of the surroundings that you have, and it automatically changes the level of your music based on that?
It sounds like it, yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. That's a really, there are a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to try it. It for some people it would definitely be handy, I think. But like I said, they didn't send me a sample. I haven't talked to them personally, but I got the press release from it, and I thought, that sounded kind of cool. All right. Well, that's really all the news that we've got for today. There really hasn't been a whole lot this month. It's like the first month of school, and there's not a whole lot going on except for the bad stuff with the marching bands. So
Hmm.
let's kind of move on down the road here. Andy, you've been doing some speaking lately, including one of the big ones. You gave a speech out at Midwest last December, I understand, and you're going to kind of go through a few of those things with us today, right?
Yeah, so my presentation back last December was called Music Teacher 2.0, Managing Your Program in the Digital Age. And so my basic premise is, and I hope that any music educator at any level can understand this in some way, as we talk about it, that there's a lot that we have to do as music teachers. And if you've ever seen the comic, there's a great comic on Tone Deaf of the many hats of a band director, and it's like 25 hats high, and everything from treasurer to social worker to school nurse to you know, and then it's at the very, 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 very top is music teacher. Um, and so we juggle a lot of things, and we're trying to deal with a lot of paperwork and a lot of organizing and making sure that we remember things and communicate this and the schedules and the grades and all of this. And so my deal is, how can we spend less time having to worry about all that? You know, I'm a band director, and one of my passions is wind band music and rep. And if I had the ability to spend my whole life studying scores, I would. But I can't because I'm doing field trip forms and bus requests and purchase orders and emailing my parents about the calendar because they don't read it, or whatever it may be that you're doing instead of what you'd like to be doing, whether it be lesson planning, studying, listening, coming up with new ideas to engage your kids. And so I've come up with a set of tools. Many of them are probably tools that many people already use, but that when combined together for me have created a really great workflow to help me spend less time sitting at my desk doing paperwork, and so that I can hopefully spend more time doing what I love to do, which is teaching. And so they've been pretty effective for me. So the first big thing that's really that I use is Facebook, and I know that that's kind of the educator's version of the F word, if you think of it like that. Everyone kind of tries to avoid it, but I have found ways that actually it's very, very effective to help me with what I'm doing. So the first thing we're looking at over here is just the website the Facebook page for my band. I use this as and a lot of people have Facebook pages for their band programs. I use this as a public face of the band. So this isn't where the announcements like, don't forget your field trip forms go. I have a separate place that all of those go. But this is the public face. So, for example, this alumni band thing, I posted some information here about it. Put little video clips of rehearsals and pictures from our events that we have when we host, for example, our end of band camp. We do a potluck dinner preview show. pictures from band camp so that we can share those. And those are for the parents, the alumni, the family. I teach in an area where a lot of families are immigrants, and so a lot of the kids, they live here with their parents, but their grandparents, their abuelas, their tios and tias live in different countries, and so this is an opportunity for their extended family to get to see what their kids are up to. And so we post a lot of stuff like that, and that's more of the public face of the program. We have had people reach out to us there asking if they can support us in some way, make donations, whatever it is. And I try to keep that active. I have a couple students who recently have graduated who are now studying photography in college, and they live in the area, and so I kind of have brought them on as volunteer staff photographers. And so they'll come and they'll bring their camera to all the football games at the competitions and snap a bunch of pictures, and then all we have to do is just throw them up there, and the kids love it because they see their face in public, so to speak. And the parents enjoy it because they get to then be the proud parent and share, look at what my daughter did this weekend, or whatever it may be. So that from the public side has been a really effective thing. And of course with that I'm safe because there's no connection with the kids at all. I mean, I run that page. I have a couple of my other staff members who have access to post on it with my approval, but the kids aren't really involved in that. But the real power of Facebook has come for me through the groups. I create a group, a private closed group for each band year that I do, and now this year I've actually, in addition to just the marching band, created separate groups for the concert bands and the jazz band programs, so that I can post, and that's where the more detailed notes that are specific to this year, the logistical things, the more private things happen. So that's kind of what that is. I'll show you a couple. Obviously, it's a private group, so, and I'll talk a little bit about how that all works. But these are just some screenshots of ways that I have used this group. So posting links, for example, we take video of our, we do a run through at the end of each rehearsal, and so we take that video and then quickly can upload it. Or whoever takes the video, whether it's an instructor, can upload it and say, "Hey, this is what it looked like," and the kids can self-evaluate. And what we'll do is we'll say, "Okay, this was our run. Leave a comment with what you think was good or what was not so good." And
So you're using it also. You also use this kind of as an evaluation tool. I know that in our high school, my son's a freshman, and they also do something similar to this. They post it. They don't use Facebook. They post it to their YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day or whatever, the kids have to come in after a performance, and they have to have their own little one-page critique of what they did. So
so I use it as an assessment tool in that way. I don't assign it as necessarily a homework assignment, and they don't get a grade for it. But I make it a point to reinforce, because my marching band is completely extracurricular. But I do make it a point to give props, if you will, to kids who post particularly insightful comments. So, if we had a run through on Monday and we posted the video, and every time we'll ask, "Hey, what did you think?" And this one 10th grader happens to say, "Hey, I thought this was really good, but I noticed here our intervals weren't very good, and so I think we can fix that." When we come back to rehearsal on Wednesday, I'm going to make it a point to single out that student and give them some positive reinforcement. And that creates this culture of everybody wants to be that person that gets singled out in front of everybody for the good thing that they did. Now, certainly the next step to that could be that assessment where, now you have to actually do something. You use an online form even to save having to do all the graded paperwork. I've heard of programs doing that.
Right.
So this is more of this image here is more of a logistical post. You'll notice this post was done at, I think, 8:30 in the evening, so this is after rehearsal's over. This is just final reminders about what's going on. We had a last-minute pep gig, and this is my favorite one. It's the end of marching band season. It was the evening of our state performance, and it was the last time the band was going to perform in the year, and our color guard captain posted this up, and it was just a really, really sweet little thing that she had found online, and it was just kind of a nice way for her to share her.
I can't seem to scroll up on it. I wanted to show it better, but it's not letting me scroll up. There we go. Okay.
You got it? Yeah. So here I can. It says.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't know if you can see it all. Yeah. So it's just this very, very sweet little thing about the show being over, and over but not done.
Posted by a student, right?
Yeah, this is one of the students who, she was a senior. She had just marched her last show of her high school career, and it's obviously an emotional time for her as well as for the whole group and the staff as well. And so this was one of the ways that the kids had the opportunity to share what they were thinking or feeling with everybody without it being a long, meeting that we all have to sit there. But this was one of probably about a dozen posts that went up on the group that evening. You know, an evening where you would think that all of the kids in some way would be going, okay, finally marching band season is over. I get my life back. And I'm sitting here in the hotel room on our state band trip. I'm saying, thank God it's over. I get my life back. And they're all posting things like, wow, I'm really going to miss this. Thank you all for the best 6 months of my life. These really sweet things. And so, yes, it's a business thing, and it's a way for you to get information to them and post reminders. But it's also a way for them to kind of collaborate with each other and to share with each other the experiences that they're having.
Is this moderated through Google Groups, or is this just it's when they post it automatically goes up?
When they post, it goes up. I have it set that I get immediate push notifications on my phone whenever anybody makes a post to the group. Obviously, it's moderated from my end, and I have all of my staff and my student leaders who have access to moderate things. So between all of us, and I've spoken with all of them about how this all works. If something goes up that shouldn't be up, we can very quickly address that. And because it's a closed and private group, the only other people who are going to have access to that are the people who are in it, the kids and the staff. And because it's a closed group, we know who it is, and so I can then address that with the individual student if need be.
Okay.
So
now you also use something else to get the word out to your students, right? And that's this remind.com.
Yeah. So this used to be called Remind 101, and they recently shortened it to Remind, and it's essentially a text blast service. And there are a lot of these around nowadays, but this is the one I use. It's designed for teachers, and it's a great way to send mass texts out to everybody. So it's free. You create an account as a teacher, you register, say I'm at this school, I'm this whatever, this is what I teach, and then you can create I don't know if it's unlimited, but you can create a certain number of, they call them classes. And for each class, you get a short code, kind of like you'd have like a Twitter handle or something like that for the class. And then you give the kids that short code and say, text this code to this number, 8101, whatever it is, this little 5 or 6 digit number. And when they text in, it asks them what their name is and then automatically adds them to the group. So you don't know their phone number, they don't know yours. And you can, through their mobile apps or through their website, send out text messages. So this is great for the instantaneous announcements. I'm sure anybody who's taken a field trip can relate to you're in the middle of something, or it's the night before, and something last minute changes. The bus company is going to be a half an hour late, or you're at the field trip and, oh, well, things are going a little better than planned, so take a little bit more free time and we won't meet back until this time, because you don't want them showing up early, because then you've got to occupy them for another half an hour.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. This is a great way to do that, because they're always on their phones, always on their phones.
Yeah.
And so this is a great way to kind of get that information out to the kids quickly, easily. I use it when we take overnight trips. Hey, don't forget, wake up time, is this, and we have to meet at this time, and hey, we're at the theme park, and we're meeting back by the front gate at this time, and all of that sort of thing is where that all comes into play. Don't forget your black socks tomorrow for the show. Those things that you're laying awake at night hoping that they remember, that they're laying awake at night not thinking about, you can send them a quick, hey, don't forget.
Cool. Well, now you've also got a couple of collaboration tools that you wanted to bring up. One of them I'm very familiar with, which is Dropbox. I use it all the time, not just for my own personal stuff, syncing stuff between school and home, but also for sending out forms and stuff to parents, because I teach 5th grade band. I was smart. I got out of the gig about 8 years ago. And the beginning band forms, the important stuff, I'll put it in the public Dropbox folder, and they'll be able to download it from there. And it's It's just a whole lot more convenient for me. How do you wind up using it though?
Yeah, so all the other tools we talked about before, that's all communicating. And so that's letting me not have to worry about whether they're going to remember their socks or, making sure that they know that. But this side of stuff is more for me and making sure that I'm not as overwhelmed by the stuff that I've got to do. So obviously, like you, I use it for the personal side of things, and I'll use Dropbox to keep. So I have a Dropbox folder for my school, and where I keep all of my notes and my forms. And when I make a form or a paperwork or anything like that, it's all saved there, and so I can get it from home. I can get it on my phone wherever I am. But really, where I found the power of Dropbox is in the collaboration features. So, for example, I have a marching band folder. And then I use this with marching band, but if you work in any way of collaborating with anybody at any level, there's possibilities here. I share my marching band folder with my staff, and so whenever we get to show music for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and we get them as PDFs from the composer, I throw them all in a music folder, and they're there. And so the staff, they can pull up the scores. They can pull up the scores and access those, and I don't have to print out 12 copies of the score for my student leaders and my staff. I can put the drill, when we get the drill, up in the folder, and so they don't have to pull that up. Um, when we take recordings, when we get our judge tapes, I put all that stuff up there. And so I never have to worry about making sure that this instructor has this or this student leader has this. All that stuff is there for them, and they know where to find it, and they know where to go to get it. And so they can pull it up. And my band librarian has access to the music folder. So when that kid shows up and I forgot my music, they don't have to ask me, well, where's this and where's this and what file, what folder is it in? They can just pull it up themselves and print out the replacement copy. And then, of course, add the 50 cents to the kid's band fee to cover the cost of the
There you
paper.
go. There you go.
Everything's a fundraiser.
Now, another one that you're using is one that I mean, it's been around for a long time, and I admit I've I've had people tell me time and time again how important it is and how they couldn't live without it. I've never really got into using Evernote, but you apparently have because you shared this with me, and I'm looking at this, and it's like you've got your whole musical life in here.
And that's just one notebook.
And makes
I
me
am I am an Evernote evangelist and proud
wow.
of it.
Well,
Um,
convert me here because I
yeah.
still don't get it. So continue.
So Evernote's slogan is "Remember everything." And so for a music teacher, particularly band director, and particularly in the high school level, that's something that I'm always wishing I could do. And I can't tell you how many times I am laying awake at night. I hope I remember to do this, or oh shoot, I need to remember to do this, or what was that? What was I going to do about that? And so Evernote lets me kind of do that. Um, in short, Evernote
Should
is
I not be clicking on some of these?
you
I'm
can stick
sorry, I
around with.
just clicked and I just
No,
see the names, so it's
that's
okay.
fine.
All right.
Stick with that one for now, and I'll kind of
Okay.
guide you as we go, because that's a live notebook of the things that I'm actually doing. Um, So Evernote is essentially a digital notebook, and so it allows you um, to collect anything that you could possibly need, that you might need to refer back to at some point, in one place, and so you can refer back to everything when you need to. It lets you collect text that you type in. For example, you're looking at my substitute plans. We took a field trip a couple weeks ago, and so I typed up my sub plans in there. I have a color guard instructor who comes and works with. I have actually a color guard class that I use as a recruiting tool, and so I typed it up there, and I have that note shared with her so she can see what's going on. But then I can also print it and give it to the substitute, and I can look back and say, okay, what did I have them do in this period? If an administrator or a parent or whatever might happen to ask. It lets you clip images. So if you look down at the very next one, the Orange Bowl gig layout, just below that note, this is a PDF file that I can open up, and this was the field trip that we went on. We were playing for the Orange Bowl committee, and they drew a little sketch of, okay, you're going to come in this way, and you're going to play in the ballroom, and then you're going to go out. And so instead of me having to save that sheet of paper and bring it with me on the day of, I can save it to my Evernote. I can pull it up on my phone when I need to, and it reminds, hey, this is what you need to do, and this is when. It lets you clip photographs. It lets you clip websites, web pages that you find that are particularly noticeable. So if you look at the water bottles one of my band parents forwarded me a little image. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to load up.
Yeah, broken image.
Broken image, of course. But he sent me I'll have to go back and look at that. He sent me a little quote on, hey, this is what it would cost to get water bottles for the band. Little personalized South Bay band water bottles for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I save my purchase orders when I do a purchase order,
Now,
so that
the thing that strikes me about Evernote is that, okay, and I see the value of being able to have everything in there. All right,
Mhm.
but how the heck do you search through that? I mean, what if you don't label it properly, and then 2 years from now you can't remember what you called it?
Right. So there are a couple things that are particularly powerful about Evernote that help with that. The first is you can have multiple notebooks. So what you're looking at right now is the notebook that I, for lack of a better word, have titled Director Notes. This is anything that really doesn't have another place. So just kind of the random things. I have a notebook for each class that I teach, and I put my lesson plans in there. I have a notebook for specifically marching band. I have a notebook for my staff, which I'll talk about in a second. And so that's one thing, is that helps trim it down, because now I can kind of search within the context of where the note came from. But the other thing is Evernote has an incredible search power. One of the things that's really, really helpful with its search power is that it will. Are you familiar with the phrase OCR?
Mm-hmm.
It essentially will recognize any text that is in an image, a file, a document that you have saved in Evernote, and it will make that text searchable. So, for example, if we're looking back at that Orange Bowl gig layout thing, I think that one of the words in there at the very bottom, she had written what the playlist was going to be, and she hand wrote the word playlist. Right? This is the marketing person who sent me this. If I wanted to really quickly look at anything in my Evernote that included the word playlist, I would search for the word playlist, and this note would come up.
Okay.
Even though the word was never typed, it recognizes the handwriting and pulls that up. And so if I search for that, it'll pull that up and say, hey, here's a note. So you don't need to be able to know what you titled the note, or what you titled the document, or what the title of it was. Usually with a couple words, you can get the list pared down to something small enough that you can get a pretty good idea. It lets you tag notes. So I'll tag any note that's a purchase order with purchase order, and so I can quickly pull up a list of all the POs that I have. You can separate them into notebooks. You can search by when it was created, time wise. Um, all of those sort of things are powerful from that way, and that's how I kind of am able to find things without without necessarily remembering the exact title. But
I should probably try it. I just it's kind of like me with Facebook. I don't use Facebook just because I'm afraid I'll get sucked in and become even less productive than I already am. I know
right.
Evernote is supposed to make you more productive. It's supposed to save stuff. I just would have to kind of change the way I do things. I'm more of a handwritten note person with a notebook around with me than I am with this, but I could
Yeah.
change to it, I'm sure.
Well, right, and that's always the trick, is you have to integrate it into your workflow. One of the good things is they have done a great job of creating a suite of apps that are very, very easy to use. And so,
Yeah, there's a lot of apps that integrate with it too,
oh
aren't there?
yeah,
It's like, yeah,
there's a ton.
Evernote.
And so, when I, for example, I think one of the notes down a little bit lower in that notebook you're looking at is just a pink Post-it note, and it says Monarch PO for toner. Yeah, and so I'm sitting at my desk. I ordered some toner for my specialty copy machine, and I'm sitting at my desk, and the treasurer calls me and says, "Hey, this is the purchase order number for that, in case you need to go pick it up." And so I just scribbled it down because, like you, it's just pen and paper. It's right there. It's easy. But then when I'm ready to go pick up the stuff, I don't have to worry about making sure I remember to bring that Post-it note. I take out my phone. The Evernote app has a great little camera that will, and this camera even recognizes Post-it notes as Post-it notes and formats them and
I
makes them
saw
look
that.
cool.
Yeah, the
Yeah, and so I snap a picture of it, and when I go up there to the company, I can say, "Oh, the PO number is," I'll look it up and give them the number, and I don't have to worry about it. And so my general rule is anything that I might need to refer back to at some point, I put in Evernote. And so my repertoire plans, what I'm going to do, You see a couple notes up from that. I managed to sweet talk somebody in the office to give me the code to the really good Xerox machine that does the double-sided stapled, duplex, blah, blah, blah. So I saved the code to that in Evernote so that I can refer back to it if I need to. Um, blank copies of all my forms. So anytime I need to fill out a field trip form, I just open up Evernote, find the blank one, fill it out, and save it into my Dropbox. The real power with Evernote that I found, though, is in the sharing tools. I have a shared notebook where all of my staff, like I said, just like with Dropbox, excuse me, has access to, and so we put our rehearsal plans in there. I have a shared notebook with my leadership, and I share the rehearsal plans with them. I can share the recap sheets and the score sheets from our competitions. At the show, because I don't know how many other high school band directors have run into this, but I have a staff of probably about 8 people who come and help me out, and, drum people and guard people, and
Mhm.
some alumni who come back and help out. And as soon as we finish the awards ceremony, the awards retreat, and I go back and pick up our stuff, the first thing they all want to do is give me the recap. Give me the recap. Let me see how much we got. And they all want to crunch the numbers, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, instead of having to worry about them all crowding around and I'm trying to get the kids back on the bus and let's go home, take a picture of it, save it to Evernote. Before I even get down from the press box, they're all on their phones looking at the scores, and I never have to worry about it. And from the director's perspective, that's nice because they can do what I pay them to do, which is figure out what we need to change in the show to continue to let it grow. And I don't have to worry about that cutting into my time of what I'm trying to worry about at that given moment.
I hadn't thought about that one. That would have been nice about 10 years ago when I was doing that stuff.
Oh, it's great. So let me talk you. We don't need to do it visually because that would take longer. But through some of the things I have in my staff notebook that I have shared with them,
Okay.
when I get so I'm looking at this vertically right now, time wise. Schedules, tentative schedules for the upcoming competitions, who we're going up against, at what time we perform, and all of that sort of stuff. Before I publish that for everybody because it's still not finalized, but just so that they know. Um, Maps of the competition sites, anything that the director of a competition sends to me. This is the layout of this is where the warm up area is. This is the information. I put that in there.
Mhm.
It's collaborative, so they can add to it. So my color guard instructor put her layout of, okay, this part of the show, the kids are going to be on this equipment. The drill writer has access to that, so as he's writing the drill, he can go back and look and say, okay, I need to make sure I write a transition in for them. Order information for percussion and guard equipment so that my instructors can see. When we experiment with different possible, we talked about possibly giving the kids a special unique uniform this year. I clip different ideas, notes from our design meetings, anticipated expenses. I tell all my staff to, hey, give me a list of the things that you think we're going to need to buy for your caption this year. And so my
Mhm.
drumline instructor goes and he saves a bunch of links to the drum heads that we're going to need and the sticks we're going to need. And my guard instructor saves the silks that she wants to get. And then that's all here. And then I can go back and look at that without having to ever sit down and schedule a meeting at a certain time, at a certain day when they're going to get stuck in traffic. And then I'm going to have a crying kid come into my office and that's going to totally turn the day around. We can do all that digitally without having to worry about setting aside a specific time to sit there and do it. And so I can look at that.
Right.
So
Well, cool. I think
it's really powerful.
you've almost got me. I'll have to try it. I mean, I'm a one man show now, so I don't have to deal with the collaboration as you do as much anymore.
Hmm.
I know it could probably help me out. I just have to force myself to try it. I know.
And that's what it is. You got to integrate it into your workflow.
You did have one other thing on your list, and that was Google Docs.
Hmm.
We're all kind of familiar with that one. In fact, our show notes for the show today, we did them in Google Docs before we got started here.
Hmm.
Pasted all of our links in here, and we were collaborating with this for 20, 30 minutes before the show started, trying to figure out what were we going to do, what order were we going to put it in, all those things. So,
Hmm.
are there any other ways that you use Google Docs?
Yeah, I'm pulling one up. I forgot to give you this link before, but one of the ways that I use it, it's one of those things that it's in the background and I never have to not. And here we are collaborating on the doc again.
There you go.
I have an absence request form that I have for my kids. And so when they're going to miss something, they have to fill this out. And you'll notice a couple things. One, it's a absence request form. rather than just you're telling me that you're going to miss, you're requesting an excused absence. And so this is great because all the time I have kids come, I can't come to the football game because blah blah blah, or I'm going to be late to practice because blah blah blah. And then of course I don't remember that because I'm in the middle of 18 other things,
Yeah.
and they just told me in passing it in the middle of wind ensemble rehearsal while we're switching from one piece to the next, and that's not, you know. And then we get to the game and it's like, where's the kid? And I didn't remember that the kid told me they weren't going to show up, and so I have them do the answer is, if you're going to miss, you have to do the form.
Right.
And so I'm not going to start worrying about where's the student for rehearsal or performance unless I don't see them in the form. And that, of course, populates into a spreadsheet that I can pull up and look at. And so if I'm looking for a student, I can't find them, the first place I look is, did they do an absence form? Normally, I will know ahead of time because I get email notifications, but maybe I missed it or maybe whatever. And then if not, then we can address, and then I can make sure that I'm really getting on the kid about being here without being unfair. You know, because I don't want to yell at the kid because they told me they weren't going to be here a week ago and I forgot. You know, so it's just as much, and I tell them that. I say, listen, you have to do this just because you have to do this just like you would normally if you had a job, have to communicate with your boss that you're going to miss a day, but also because I don't want to yell at you later because I don't have a good memory.
Right.
That's not your fault, but this is a way that I'm going to make sure that you're not being punished because I forgot what you told me just because it happened to not have been the best time to tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's helpful. I use Google Docs for almost everything. I can't remember the last time that I typed something up in Microsoft Word or anything. Of course, our school district went to all Google Docs and Google Apps several years ago, and now they're going all Chromebook, which is kind of bugging me. Another program.
Right.
But you know, it's a free tool that if you haven't used it, it can definitely make things a whole lot easier for you as a teacher, and especially when you're trying to communicate with others and trying to collaborate on projects. I know we use it all the time, not me personally, but the older grades do for submitting stuff to the teachers, you know, and there's all kinds of different add-ons that the teachers can use that integrate with Google Docs to be able to distribute assignments and collect assignments into a manageable way so that they don't have to do quite as much legwork of tracking down papers and stuff. Instead of dealing with paper stuff, the kids just send it to them through Docs and it's done. So yeah.
Yeah, the thing with all of these is, especially when you're doing it from the collaborator side, you have to get the people you're working with to buy into it. You know, and like you wouldn't use Google Docs nearly as much, I would imagine, if it wasn't something that everybody around you at the school was using.
Right.
You'd use it for yourself, but you know the power of it is when you get people to buy in. One of the things that I've found effective about the stuff that I use, the Dropbox, the Evernote, is that the learning curve is low enough that I can sit down with my staff and say, or the people I work with, and say, hey, this is what I'm going to be using, you know, get a little familiar with it, and they're not like, well, this is too hard, I'm not going to worry about it.
Right.
You know, and but all of it is about, you know, whatever works for you. What works for me may not work for everybody. You know, and I'm a self-proclaimed tech nerd, and so I do things a lot differently than, you know, maybe a band director who's been teaching for 40 years and didn't grow up with all of this technology did. You
Right.
know, but at the end of the day, the goal of it is to help you spend less time having to worry about all of the stuff that is not teaching, so you can spend more time worrying about the stuff that is.
Yeah. There you
You
go.
know, and so whatever that is for you, if your system is pen and paper, fine, but make sure you refine it in a way that that's going to work for you. If your system is digital, same thing, but whatever it is, make sure it's something that's going to allow you to spend as little time as you possibly can worrying about the extra stuff so that you can spend as much time getting to be a teacher.
Right. Well, Andy, thank you for volunteering to come on and help me out with this episode today.
That was a pleasure.
It's great to talk to you again. I've heard you off and on over the last couple of years on Twitter and through your blog and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I had you down on my list. I'm like, one of these days I got to try and get Andy on here and see what he's doing. Because I remember back then, whatever year that was, I want to say it was It wasn't '05, maybe '08, something like that, '09.
Yeah, I think it was like 08, 09,
Yeah.
I think maybe 2008.
Uh, I just remember back then thinking, this guy is going to be good. He's gonna be one of these music education powerhouses. So, hey, thank you for talking with me, and thank you for taking the time. Everybody, in case you're interested, please go over and take a look at. Let me get this back up here one more time here if I can find it. Take a look at Andy's blog over here. Drop him a line if you got any questions for him. Like I said, he presented all that information and a bunch more, I'm sure, back at Midwest last year.
And I actually have a little shameless plug on that. If you look at the portfolio presentations drop down there, you can see the notes from, if you go to
Oh,
Midwest
there
Clinic,
it
you can see the
is.
slides, the note. I have the audio. Oh, there's a video of me conducting. It's a drop down, so if you go back up to the top and hover over that, and then click on Midwest.
I thought I did. I'm
Oh,
sorry. Maybe I clicked on
oh,
the wrong one.
yeah, there you go.
There you go.
There are
Okay.
the slides. You scroll down. I have an audio recording made in Evernote. All the links that I talked about there, and I have one of those for each of the presentations that I've done on that drop down. So if you want to check
Cool.
out any more about what I've done, obviously we just kind of hit the highlights today, but
Mhm.
that's the detailed. And again, that audio is literally, it's just I was holding my phone, using it as my PowerPoint remote and recording everything I was saying, so you can go back and relive the glory if you didn't get a chance to. They scheduled me up against the Baylor Wind Ensemble, so
Yeah, don't you
I
hate that? You,
I
you
missed I
you
missed some
work your
people.
butt off to get a show, to get a presentation ready, and then that's the thing on some of our some conferences, like they schedule you the last thing on the last day, and
Right.
everyone's there. But I hope they had a lot of people come to you. I hope.
Yeah. Oh no, we had a good crowd, and certainly, I would never complain about getting the opportunity to present at the Midwest Clinic. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's a career thing, something that I've always looked at and said it would be great if, and so it was certainly an honor to do that. And hopefully this page here is going to give people who couldn't be there, whether it's they weren't at the show or they were there but going to something else, the opportunity to see what they
Right.
missed.
Well, Andy, once again, thank you for coming on the show, and this will be posted here in the next couple of days for all the world to see.
Great.
Like I've been saying, if you've got any questions for Andy, send it to him. If you have any questions for me or any ideas for future shows, please send them to me as well. As always, go over to Music Ed Magic, sign up for the newsletter on the right side of the page. Grab the links there to get over to iTunes to get the podcast feeds. Remember, I also do the Music Education Minute every week. I put up a new Music Education Minute, which is a 5 to 7, maybe 10 minutes at most episode. And then once a month, I'm trying to do these Music Education Monthlies with a guest host like Andy. So please, guys, check it out. Let me know what you think. Give me some kudos. Give me some bad boys, whatever, if I'm doing good or if I'm doing bad, let me know. But please, one way or the other, let me know. Thank you once again. This is Chad Criswell from Music Education Monthly. See you next time.